In Bahrain today, it's the second day of a controversial US-backed Middle East peace conference. Jared Kushner opened the event yesterday, calling his Peace to Prosperity plan the opportunity of the century. But Palestinians remain unconvinced. The head of the IMF and former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair are both set to speak today. Gareth Brown has the story.
It's called Peace to Prosperity, and it's Washington's $50 billion economic formula for ending the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, kicked off a two-day workshop in the Gulf Kingdom of Bahrain with a speech to get international donors on side. Kushner calls it the opportunity of the century.
For too long, the Palestinian people have been trapped in an inefficient framework of the past. The Peace to Prosperity vision is a modern framework for a brighter and more prosperous future. It is a vision of what is possible with peace. Tomorrow we'll be talking a little bit about property rights, which is a very essential component for people being able to get loans, for people being able to have investments, but we need a better business environment.
Palestinian leaders are being told to agree a peace deal with Israel, and investment will follow. But they have rejected the process. Palestine is not a real estate deal, they say.
The deal of the century aims to do three things. First, to finish off the Palestinian cause. Second, to give the green light for the Zionist enemy to expand its occupation and its control over all of the West Bank. Third, to open the door to normalization between Arab countries and the occupier.
Back in the West Bank, Palestinians have clashed with Israeli soldiers. They claim the US plan unfairly favors Israel. The Palestinian Authority is angry that there is no mention of a two-state solution in the proposals and insists that before anything else, there needs to be a political agreement. Gareth Brown, Euronews.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined now by NBC News foreign correspondent Matt Bradley, who's in Tel Aviv. Matt, Jared Kushner has been ridiculed for this plan. Did he give any more details about it yesterday? And are there any signs that he's winning over any of his critics?
Yeah, Alistair, it doesn't seem that he's winning over anybody. You know, a lot of the critics who were lambasting this plan initially, they're still holding the same line. And, you know, they've been saying the same thing, which is that this idea that Jared Kushner was flogging yesterday, that this is a new plan, that there's some new ideas here that haven't been tried before, that's not the case, that things have not changed, and that this initial rollout of the plan that looked kind of like a really slick real estate brochure, that the actual conference itself, the workshop, just looked like a TED Talk. And everybody's saying, you know, all the critics, that this conflict is 70 years old and that there's nothing new under the sun, that this plan is reinventing the wheel, and that this Israeli-Palestinian conflict has seen it all before, including high-minded rhetoric and slick production values. Alistair?
And with these crucially absent delegations from Israel and from the Palestinian side as well, who is Kushner actually pitching all this to?
Well, in many ways, he's pitching, or he's kind of preaching to the choir, and that's a lot of the Gulf states, you know, the Arab Gulf states like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, who's hosting the conference. They're the ones who are trying to get in with the Trump administration. There's a lot of anger among Palestinians and other Arabs here in the region that there are Arab governments who are pitching in and participating with a conference and a plan that a lot of people here see as a betrayal of the real Palestinian cause. So he's pitching to them. And one thing, Alistair, that we have to remember, and all of this week, all of the last several weeks, this is true, is that looming over all of this is the issue of Iran and Iran spreading influence throughout the region. This conference is not necessarily about trying to help the Palestinians. A lot of critics say this is more about trying to butter up the Trump administration and hoping that the Trump administration helps in the confrontation with Iran. Alistair?
Matt Bradley from NBC News in Tel Aviv. Thanks very much. Well, Greg Roman is the director of the Middle East Forum, and he joins us live now from Jerusalem for more on this. Greg, thanks very much for joining us. Now, what about the Israeli side? Is there any sign that the Israeli government thinks this plan might work?
Yes, right now you have the Israeli government, especially the Ministry of Defense, which is actually being held by Prime Minister Netanyahu and other ministers in the cabinet, that are listening to President Trump's plan with open ears. I think that in terms of the ability for them to get economic incentives out of this by improving the Palestinian economy, they're listening to what the president and his team through Jared Kushner, Jason Greenblatt, David Friedman, and others have to offer, but it's really contingent on the Palestinians playing ball too. Right now, there's not really a partner for which to continue this progress with.
What about the uncertainty in Israel? We've got an election coming up in the not too distant future. Of course, Netanyahu isn't guaranteed to stay in power. I mean, how crucial is he to the future success of this plan?
Well, I think that relying on one leader or one individual who's running for prime minister, whether it's for the fifth time or for the first time, if you see how Israelis poll in terms of their willingness to accept a two-state entity, a demilitarized Palestinian state, it's not a bad thing for anyone for the Palestinians to improve their economic situation. But that's not where the problem is. The problem lies with their leadership's ideology. So the question shouldn't be who will be the prime minister of Israel. The question should be which Palestinian leader will be ready to negotiate in good faith with Israel, recognize its ability to exist side by side a Palestinian state. And then I think the talk about economy, political solutions are all things that can be addressed and have been addressed in past peace conferences and have been agreed upon. If you look at the Paris Protocol in 1994, it's the perfect example for Israeli-Palestinian economic relations. That's not the issue. Palestinian acceptance of Israel is.